Cool. So, hi. Nice to meet you all, and thanks for coming today. So this is basically Kiwi Academy session. Cool, it's working. And we're going to see how leading audience development team can win on Facebook. So I assume most of you are really interested by the topic. You're probably already managing this kind of campaign on your own, and it's I hope we will be able to share a lot of valuable insight and tips with you. So my name is Martin. I'm French, as you already know. No surprise. English people call me Martin. That's fine. I'm happy with both. And I'm the general manager of Kiwi. So I'm based in London, and I'm in charge of the EMEA expansion of Kiwi. So here's just the agenda for today. So yeah, we're going to start with kind of like a icebreaker game for a few minutes. And then we're going to really see how publishers are managing their campaign on Facebook. We're going to try to share a lot of examples and best practice for you from the top world's publishers. So yeah, a lot of best practice around like the post text, the thumbnails, the description, like all the like very useful tips that you can use. And we're going to have a focus as well on Q4 specifically, because it's just like right now, we know it's a very competitive time of the year and a very crucial time of the year for publishers. So we're going to try to see how you can make the most out of your content distribution in Q4, so for the next 2 months. And at the end, we're just going to finish with a quick overview of what is Kiwi, the way we work with publishers. If you want the presentation, obviously, just send me an email, martin@kiwi.co. There is also a sign-up sheet on your table. So if you want to fill it with your details, feel free to do it. And I will make sure to reach out to you after the presentation. So yeah, just quickly to start, if we can just take a few minutes, I would like each one of you to turn to one of your neighbors, on your left, on your right, someone on your table. Potentially someone that you haven't met before, that would be better. Otherwise, so yeah, I just want you to say like 2 things to your neighbor, who you are, who you're working for, what is your role in the company, and also like 1 thing that you're looking to learn in this specific session. So if you can just take like 2-3 minutes to do that. Hope you managed to meet like interesting people in the room. I don't know if 1 or 2 of you maybe wants to just do that in front of everybody. Just say who you are and what you're looking to learn in this session. If we have a volunteer, or not really. So hopefully you have a lot of things that you're looking to learn in this session, and yeah, I hope we will manage to cover that in the presentation. Feel free to stop me if you have any questions. We really try to make it as interactive as possible, so that's totally fine. Just raise your hand and we can take some questions during the presentation. So I don't want to talk too much about Kiwi right now, but basically just to show you that, yeah, obviously we know what we're talking about, and that all the data and the insight that we're going to share with you today are legit. So Kiwi, we're working with around like 400 content creators across the globe, mostly US, UK, France, Australia. And everything that I'm going to share with you today is actually based on the analysis that we made over 1 million Facebook posts for all these publishers. So a lot of very valuable insight and best practice that you can try to use for your own campaign. So you can see on this slide a few people we're working with, guys like the New York Times, Euronews, Huffington Post, Le Monde in France, The Guardian, Condé Nast, like many content creators and storytellers. I don't know if some of them might actually be in the room or people from these companies, so yeah. And so the first question that we want to answer is why Facebook, and why do we think that Facebook is actually a great platform for publishers? So this graph actually show where people spend most of their time on their mobile phone today. And as you can see, mobile web is only about like 10% of our time. And I'm sure it's not a surprise for you. We all do the same. We all spend our time on mobile and on apps rather than on the mobile web. So mobile web was actually 20% of the time 2 years ago, 15% last year, 10% this year. So it's only going down. And I don't think there is any going back from that. So basically, 90% of the time today is spent on apps. So you can see the most famous one on this slide. And actually, few of them belong to Facebook. Not only Facebook itself, but also WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger. So we spend a lot of time in the Facebook ecosystem. And all these apps, yeah, that's where people are here today. That's where they engage with new content. That's where they discover content. And people are no longer going to the mobile web to search for content on the website. I mean, very few people do that nowadays. And instead, it's the stories who have to find their audiences within these apps and on the mobile phone of the user. So that makes Facebook very important and like a key component on any content distribution strategy. And so this graph comes from Kiwi data that we collected in the last few months. But basically what we saw is that publisher paid content distribution budgets on Facebook more than double in the past 18 months. So it's what you can see on the graph on the left. It's a very big trend, and we can see that across many different verticals. So the graph on the right is basically the same thing, but breakdown by vertical. And it's not like one vertical who is driving this trend. Like we see the same trend across any verticals, no matter if it's entertainment, sport, lifestyle, travel, B2B. All of them are definitely like spending more and more money on Facebook to distribute their content. So despite that, we know that Facebook and publishers sometimes can be complicated. We all saw these headlines in the last few days, few weeks, especially last week with the fact that Facebook tried new things on the newsfeed for the organic reach, and there was a lot of reactions from publishers. So we know that Facebook can be very complicated, and some publishers are still looking for a way to basically find a way to make it work for them and justify spending more and more money on this specific platform. So that's a big challenge for some of the publishers, and our role at Kiwi is really to try to help them on this and making sure that they can see the value of Facebook and find a way to actually make it work for them and to help them to reach their business goals that they're trying to achieve. So actually, if we go back to this slide, most of the people, sometimes they ask us if this is related to the fact that the organic reach is decreasing. So is the fact that the organic reach on Facebook is decreasing justify the fact that the paid activity is growing? And actually, there is no correlation between these two events. So it's two very separate events, and there is no correlation between them. And the reason why this is growing on the publisher side is because more and more of them actually manage to find a way to justify that and find a model that not only help them to grow their audience, but also help them to reach their business goals. So for some of them, it's going to be branded content distribution, video views on site, page views, paid subscription, newsletter sign up, e-commerce, affiliation, like all these kind of models where actually they manage to find a positive ROI on the money that they're spending on Facebook. So they're actually trying to spend more and more because they find a model where they can make a profit every time they spend on Facebook. So now we're going to share with you a lot of tips and insights about how to create very nice posts on Facebook that people are gonna engage with and gonna help you to get very good CPCs on this platform. So first, I just want to make sure that we all agree on the terminology, because I know like depending on the company, sometimes actually people refer to something different when they mention these things. So basically, this is a Facebook post, and there are like 4 key parts: the post text on top of the thumbnail itself, the headline, and the description. So there are like the 4 main things. And so yeah, I just want to make sure we all agree on that, and that's the terminology we're going to use in the next slides. So for the headline, there is actually, again, it's over like 1 million Facebook posts that we analyze in the last few months. For the headline, there is one very good structure that is working for a lot of publishers, no matter what kind of content they are distributing on Facebook. And if we have a look at this specific headline, when you look about it, it's just like a number, a noun, a personal pronoun, and a modal. So for example, yeah, you can have 4 items we can buy for Christmas, or 5 things we need to do every morning, or all this kind of structure works really well. So we're not saying that's the only one that's working and that you should have all your posts within this structure. But it's really good to actually try it and see if it works for you and for your content, because yeah, it's a very effective structure on Facebook. So I don't know if some of you already use this kind of headlines. If you have like some example that works really well for your content. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So the description, so if you remember, the description is what you have at the end of the post, just below the headline. Actually, what we realized that the description is not very important. Like the headline, it actually comes from the article itself, so it's like by default generated on its own. And there is not a lot of impact when we try like exactly the same post with different description. It's actually not very impacting the click-through rate. At most, like in the best case that we saw, you can just expect a 0.5 change in click-through rate, which is still nice, obviously, but it's definitely not what's going to impact the click-through rate on the post. So maybe it's not really worth the time to spend a lot of time on this specific thing. And the only advantage of that is that if your brand is not very famous, or if you're trying to get new people to know about your brand, or you have like a very niche content, very niche brand, it can actually help you to give like credibility to your post. So in that case, it could be like very useful to try to work on this part. But if you're like the New York Times or Le Monde or someone like a brand that everybody knows, it's not really have any impact. So yeah, don't focus too much on that. So let's try to see what kind of posts are actually working better on Facebook and what kind of best practice you can apply to your own campaign. So we have 2 examples on this slide. They are exactly the same headline and description, but just one on the left, the picture is black and white. On the right, it's in color. So who thinks the one in black and white had better performances on Facebook? So you all agree that the one with the color worked better? Okay. And you're right, actually. This one was easy. That's just the first one. So yeah, what we saw is that when you use a post with a color picture, you're definitely going to see better engagement on Facebook compared to black and white pictures. In this specific example, we got like 59% lower CPC on the creative on the right versus the one on the left, which is a very important decrease. So unless you forced to use like a black and white picture, don't do that. And yeah, definitely go for the colors. So same thing for this one. So it's actually the same post text, headline, description, and this time we have like 2 different thumbnails. One is focused on an object, and the other one is focused on like a real person. So who thinks the one with the object performed better? Wow, you're very good. And so I assume you all think the one with the person works better? And that's actually the case. So congrats. So basically, what we saw at Kiwi is that pictures with people definitely feel more natural and are helping to perform better on Facebook. So in that case, you can see the CPC was 1.5 times lower, which is like a massive impact because it's pretty much the same creative, just the thumbnail, which is different, and it creates a huge difference in terms of click-through rate and engagement on Facebook. So if you can, most of the time, try to focus on people, that's definitely working better than objects. So on this one is the same thing. We have the same creative. The only thing changing is the thumbnail. On the left, we have a group of people, and on the right, you can see like just one guy on his bike. Which one do you think performed better? Do you think it's the one on the left? The one on the right? Yeah. Just realized we have all the answers on the right. I hope we, we didn't. So that's actually the case. It's actually Facebook recommendation as well as Kiwi recommendation to use image where you have like one very clear focal point. In that case, you can see that the bike is definitely the main point on the picture, and you just have like a background. But yeah, you definitely focus on the bike first. Well, like on the one on the left, there are too many things basically that you can look at. There are too many people and some text on it. So yeah, the one on the right definitely performed better. In that case, 20% better than the one there. So yeah, make sure that all your thumbnails are like something very clear to look at, and that the attention of the users is going to be focused on one part of the thumbnail. So this one, same thing. The only thing changing is the thumbnail. Who do you think the one on the left performed better? A few people this time. So who thinks the one on the right performed better? Sorry? Left? That's the case.
That's the actual sequence, though, isn't it, on the tube, rather than the other?
That could be a reason. Maybe on our side, we think it's more due to the fact that they are using like very bold colors. It's definitely like visually more attractive than the one. Maybe also because it's the seat is more like a close-up version on the left. But yeah, try to use like very bold colors compared to gray or brown or like they are not very attractive for the users. It really helps your creatives to pop ups and to get the attention of the users in their news feed. So in that case, that was like pretty much half the cost again, which is like a huge difference. Like, so this one, same thing. The only thing changing is the thumbnail. Who do you think the one on the left performed better?
Is this a paid post or organic?
They are all paid posts, yeah.
Right. I don't know if Facebook would block them, right?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the, that's a very good point. So it's actually the one on the left who works better. But yeah, as you said, the less text you have on the thumbnail, the better it is. And actually, that's my point, is that Kiwi Facebook won't deliver images where you have like more than 20% of it, of the thumbnails being text. So you can use a bit of it, but yeah, obviously as the one on the right, if all the creative is about text, it's not going to work, and you won't be able anyway to push that content. So be very careful on that as well.
Wait, so do you mean the one on the left performed better because there's like, don't they have the same, almost same words?
Yeah, you can definitely see more like of the creative. So there is a bit of text, but definitely not as much as the one on the right, where it's taking like pretty much like 80% of the thumbnail.
But do you think maybe on the right it's like slightly more shareable, just because it's like prettier?
That's a good question.
Just because, I don't know.
There is a chance, but yeah, on this case you can see that the CPCs, they were like definitely better on the one on the left than on the right. So yeah, overall try to avoid to put a lot of text on the thumbnails. it's definitely not going to work really well. And if you definitely put too much, Facebook is going to prevent you from running them anyway. So
the one on the right wouldn't have run?
No, I think it will get blocked, yeah.
The one on the left of the text is too small for it really to be...
Well, it depends. I think you can still definitely read it, like on your bigger, yeah, on your mobile. It's like, yeah, I think you can definitely read it, but yeah. So now, yeah, let's try to give you some tips for Q4 and the Christmas holiday season. We all know it's a very competitive time of the year. And so it's very important, and publishers, yeah, they all have budgets to spend at that time of the year, so it makes it even more crucial to find a way to distribute your content very effectively on Facebook. This is just a quick overview here of the calendar for the next 2 months, with like some of the main events in the US or in the UK. That you're probably familiar with. So yeah, obviously Thanksgiving, the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, like they are like very important days for retailers and e-commerce, and Christmas, obviously. And so what we do recommend is that, yeah, if you have a limited budget for the next 2 months, try to avoid basically to spend that budget on this very competitive day. Because all the retailers and guys like Amazon especially, they're going to be spending a lot of money. They have huge budget to spend for Christmas. And so on these days, it's going to be very hard for your content to compete with these retailers. So if you have a limited budget, try to spread it at different time. Actually, October for that was a very good opportunity for publishers. I hope you took advantage of it. But yeah, it's definitely the less competitive months in Q4. And after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's Eve, there is a good opportunity as well, where there's going to be like less competition on Facebook. So yeah, try to avoid these days where the competition is going to be massive, and try to focus on some other time where the competition is going to be less important on Facebook. That's going to help your content to get like great performances for you. But actually, if your business and if you're trying to drive purchases or affiliation and any e-commerce activity on your website, actually you could run some campaign during these days because there is a good chance that it's going to perform well. You just need to monitor it like very closely and making sure that your ROI is still positive. But it's actually in that case, if your business model is related to this e-commerce activity, you should definitely be spending on these days where people are actually going to spend a lot on the internet. So what we all know as well is that the competition on mobile is definitely less important than on desktop. So there is a good opportunity to get like quality traffic at a much better cost on mobile. And a lot of Facebook inventory is actually mobile anyway, so there is opportunity to get like very good volumes at a much better CPC than on desktop. That's going to be super competitive. The reason of that is that, yeah, most advertisers at the moment, they might not already have like a good mobile strategy, or their mobile website is not great, or the experience for the user, so they don't really want to spend on mobile and they're focusing on desktop. So the only thing with mobile is that, yeah, the monetization on your site might not be as strong as on desktop. For e-commerce people, they might not purchase a product on mobile the same way they will do it on the desktop. But again, like as you can get like very, very low CPC on mobile, try to find a way to distribute your content there. Just monitor very carefully with the monetization, the RPM that you have on site, just to make sure that, yeah, basically you're still getting this positive ROI. But it's definitely a great opportunity for publishers, and they should be spending on mobile just like different campaigns with different goals and different CPC that you can afford compared to desktop. So now, yeah, we're going to show you like some post that works really well for our partners. So for every slide, we're going to show you the actual post. We're going to show you like what works, what were the insights and the best practice that you can use for your own campaign, and also some suggested audiences that came from Kiwi's Audience Builder. So Kiwi is able to, for every content that you gave us, to see what audiences we should be targeting on Facebook. And so for every post, you're going to see some suggestions of audiences that work really well on Facebook for this specific post. And as you will see, some of them are very obvious, like some audiences that you will choose to target on your own. Some of them are like less intuitive audiences, but basically they are performing really well for this content. So if we have a look at this one, the main thing that they did is that they tried to use a post for Christmas, but they publish it, as you can see, on the 19th of October. And the reason for that is that, basically the article is about cookies that you should be cooking for Christmas. But the fact that they focus on the fact that, you should cook them now and you can freeze them, makes it very relevant for them to actually publish it in October, where there is like less competition on Facebook. And so the timing there was really great for them, and the fact that they used the freeze aspect of it makes it their posts very relevant, even if in October, where there is like less competition on Facebook. So that was a really good idea, and you can see some of the audiences suggested by Kiwi. So as I said, like some of them are very obvious, cookies, baking, but you can see some others like tourism, holiday, Pinterest. It's like the kind of audiences that you wouldn't really think to target for this specific post. But basically, we have the data that support the fact that this audience is actually engaging a lot with this kind of content, and that's really helped us to get like the best performances for this partner. So this one like different example in the cooking. If you're like in the cooking, baking, kitchen publication. What we saw is actually that the post on the right performed much better than the one on the left. And what we saw across like many posts and stories is that usually when you use like raw or in progress images of the recipes, it works much more better than the actual end product that you're trying to cook. So just show people like images of in the process when the food is still not, the product is not finished yet, works much better. It appeals the attention much better. In that case, that might be due to the fact that the steak is a bit burned, but still. And so same thing, you can see like some audiences that Kiwi found for this specific post. So on this one, again, it's the same creatives. They just work on the post text, and actually the fact that they keep it like super short in this case help them to get like much better performances than 2 lines post text. So sometimes it can really work to have like a very short post text. In that case, you can make it shorter than that. But actually it performs like much better in terms of click-through rate and engagement for this publisher. But again, you need to make sure that you stay true to your brand voice. You don't want to use like some kind of creatives. I mean, it's really important to keep your tone of voice, and so try to find ways to do a lot of tests with like longer version, very short version. Try to see what works the best. But sometimes it can be like very powerful to keep like very short post text on Facebook. And again, you can see some of the audiences that Kiwi recommended for this article. Like for example, Whoopi Goldberg. You're like, okay, probably wouldn't think to target this one. So we all know that List is working really well on Facebook and on a lot of different platforms. People love List. So it's kind of like the structure that we saw a bit earlier. But basically what we recommend is to put the actual number versus the word. So 10 versus 10 definitely works better with the number. And also what works really well for this one, for JQ, is that they really focus on the fact that this article is relevant for this year. So they kind of create like an emergency in their post, and it really helps them to work better. So if you're posting anything for the next 2 months, you can try to insist on the fact that it's happening like this year, or before Christmas, it can only help your post to resonate and to work better on Facebook. And next year you can produce the same one and just change the time of the year. So it's also very very helpful. So you can see again like few agencies that we target for this one, and like Halloween costumes, and still like people who are interested by Ben Affleck or Brad Pitt seems to engage a lot with this specific post on Facebook. So for this one, as you all know, when you do have this kind of list, to mention one specific item within the list, it's really strong as well and powerful. So basically, if you say like, yeah, number 4 is going to surprise you, or you won't believe number 3, or this kind of tricks, works really well. You can see on average, yeah, you can get like a 13% increase on the click-through rate using that. So that could be a good way to boost the performances of your post. But again, you need to make sure that you stay aligned with your brand voice and making sure that it's fitting your editorial guidelines. And so again, some of the audiences that we found for this specific post. This one, especially at that time of the year, if you're using like some very seasonal colors, so more like red, yellow, brown, orange, like things that makes you think about autumn, it's definitely working really well on Facebook. You can expect a very high engagement and improvement of click-through rate. So yeah, all these colors that makes us think about like Christmas and holiday seasons. If you have thumbnails that you can use for that, it's definitely going to have a good impact as well. So, and same, yeah, for the when you think about it, yeah, users are just on their news feed, they're just scrolling like very quickly. If they are very old, they might scroll a bit lower, but yeah, we do scroll like very quickly, and so you just have one chance to get the attention of the users, and you're competing with so many content on Facebook. So what we recommend is that, yeah, if you can use like very bright color, it's gonna help your content like just to pop out. So that's the case, for example, in this one. It works much better with the second version of the post, pretty much like 2 times higher, which is like a very big impact. So yeah, in all cases, we recommend you to try a lot of creative per story. But yeah, if you have like different thumbnails, if you have like galleries and you have like different thumbnails within these galleries, try to use the ones that are very bright color, and that's gonna help your content to pop out. And also for this one, so what works really well for this publisher is that they try to really talk to their core audience. They know that people following their brand are really interested in crafting, homemade stuff, and so they really insist on that in their creatives, just to make sure that to remind people why they are following this page and what kind of content that people are actually looking to get on that. So you can, as a publisher, you can go back to all the posts that you published in the past and try to see what works really well in terms of creative, and try to see what your fans are looking to get in terms of content from you guys. That could be very valuable. That can help you to make sure that you're addressing the right message to your core audience. So yeah, as I just said, basically we definitely recommend to practice a lot, try a lot of things. It's a lot of A/B tests, trying like different thumbnails, different post text, headlines, and try to see what creatives are actually going to help you to get the best performances on Facebook. So there is a lot of learnings, and you need to try basically and try to see what works the best for your specific content. But again, you need to stay true to your brand. The goal is not to try to do what everybody is doing, even if it's totally disconnected to what you guys are actually doing on Facebook. So there are some insight and some best practice that you can probably apply to your business. Some of them might not be totally relevant with what you're doing. But yeah, as I say, you can use your page insight to see what works really well for you organically, and try to see what kind of posts people are expecting from you, and what kind of posts they really engage with, and try to see if there are some stuff that you can apply to your new post. And as I say, it's really important to stand out, especially in Q4 where the competition is crazy. So try to make sure that your creatives are really attractive and are getting the attention of the users. And as we say, there are some time for the next 2 months, maybe some days that you should avoid spending, and some other, especially after December, where there is a good opportunity to get like very good competition, very good performances, sorry, on Facebook. And also, so as you saw, like some of these audiences, you need to try to find these less competitive audiences. Because if you always target for your post like the audiences that everybody is going to choose with a similar content, you're going to have your content competing with a lot of publishers, and so that's going to generate a very high competition and a very high effective CPC for you. So try to include a lot of interests and audiences on your targeting on Facebook, and try to think about like audiences that people will not be targeting at that time of the year. And if you see something working well for you, one specific audiences, try to include it in different posts as well, and try to see what works. But yeah, it's a lot of testing. But you might be able to find like some audiences are actually resonating very well with your content, and that will help you to get like very good CPCs on Facebook. I don't know how many audiences you usually target when that you include when you target stories on Facebook, but what we see with a lot of our partners, on average, they might include 3 to 5 interests, and there are actually 20 million interests that you can target on Facebook. So, and it's not like a visible list. So basically, if you don't have the idea of the audience, there is no way you can find it. But yeah, if you start to include more and more of these audiences, you might find like some interests that are actually working really well for your content. So do try. So yeah, don't be afraid to experiment. You need to try a lot of things. And yeah, try to see what works really well for you in your past campaign, and just keep learning and testing. That's what's going to help you for your future campaign for next year. So just a few things about Kiwi and the way we work with publishers. So what we do on our side is that we take your content, the content that you gave us, for example, through our RSS feed or directly from the Facebook page, but we use our technology to scan the body text of the article and identify what are the main topics, the main trends within this story. So the first step is really to understand what is the content that you just gave us. And so we can do that in French, in Spanish, and in English content. And after that, we use a database where we have like millions and millions of stories that we saw in the past for all the publishers we're working with. It really helps us to see how similar your content is to some other stories that we saw in the past. Try to see what works well when we push this content on Facebook, and so what we can potentially reapply to your specific campaign. So generate a selection of few hundreds of interests that actually are very likely to engage with your content. And as we also have an estimate of the price for each one of these interests, we can just keep the ones that are likely to be within the CPC goal that we define together before your campaign. So we know which audiences to keep, which audiences to exclude, and we make sure that we push your content to audiences that are going to engage with it and are going to help you to get the kind of CPCs that you're trying to get from Facebook. And so we do that on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Yahoo Gemini. And after that, we really work on the creatives as well. So Kiwi is able to tell us for one story what would be the best creatives to use, so the best combinations of post text, thumbnails, headlines that are actually going to help us to get the best performances on Facebook. So as I said before, it's really important to try a lot of different creatives per story. And so on our site, we might create up to 50 different variations of paid posts for one single story, and push these different creatives to different audiences on Facebook, and we quickly see what creatives are actually getting the best performances and helping us to get great results for our partners. So after that, we send them to you for your approval, and you tell us if you like the suggestions, if there's something that you want to change, if you want us to use your own creative, we can do that as well. It's really a communication between the client and our account managers, to make sure that we are running the most optimized campaign inventory. So what we see is probably something that you see as well on your side, but usually on Facebook or on other platforms, there is always like a specific floor that you're gonna reach in terms of volumes. So you can get like a very good CPC and a specific volume attached to it. And if you're trying to get more and more volumes because you're happy about the performances, it might impact negatively your CPC. So the more you try to spend, the higher your CPC is gonna be. So it's what you can see on the blue line. But by working with Kiwi, we help our partners to basically be able to scale all their content on Facebook. So as for every story, we find like different audiences, and we can do that in a very automated way. We can help them to scale and potentially double, triple their spend on Facebook, while still keeping basically the CPCs that justify the acquisition for them. So this is what you can see on the green line. In terms of integration, we just need an access on your Facebook page. It's advertiser access. Once we have this access, basically we can start creating all these formats for you. We send them to you for your approval. You tell us your feedback, and once we have your feedback, we can go live. After that, we give you access to our dashboard where you can monitor your campaign performances. You can quickly see the performances for every story that we run for you. You also have access to there is the creative. So for every story, you can see which creatives are actually generating the best results. There's a lot of insight that you can get directly from the dashboard and try to see what works well in terms of creative, and some stuff that you can also use on your side on the organic distribution. And also, so we have the ability to rank every story that you produce and try to see out of all the content that you have available, which ones actually have the potential to succeed on Facebook. So what we see is that a lot of publishers, they are boosting content and they want to try to spend a little bit of money on every story to basically find out which ones are actually working well. But on our side, even before going live or even before to start spending money, we can see that Kiwi is able to give a score to every story. And the score is the potential of this article to succeed on Facebook based on your campaign goals. What this helps us to do is, for example, if you gave us a RSS feed, we can quickly see what are the 10, 15, 20 stories who have the best potential and the one that we should be focusing on in terms of paid distribution on Facebook. So that's really helped us to make sure that we are pushing the right content and we're not spending money on some articles that actually don't have the potential to help you to achieve the performances you're trying to achieve. So as I say, we work with English, French, Spanish content. And this is just a quick overview of the kind of campaign that we usually run for our partners. As I say, audience development is a big one, obviously, trying to bring a lot of people back to your website from Facebook. And once they arrive on your website, we can move more to like an arbitrage model where basically if you know what revenue you're making per impression, if you have like slideshow, for example, or galleries, we can make it work for you. Video views, we can really optimize for any actions once people arrive on your website. Branded content distribution is a big trend as well in the industry. I don't know if you guys are doing this kind of content and campaign, but it's definitely a big trend. And usually publishers, it's really hard to distribute this content organically because there is no SEO attached to this kind of brand content. And so if you try to push this content on Facebook, the CPC can be like very hard to predict and very high compared to your editorial content, just because the content is probably not as good as what you can produce on a daily basis. And if you're doing, I don't know, like a branded content with Cisco, for example, I hope we don't have anybody from Cisco, but yeah. Basically, yeah, this kind of content can be pretty boring. And so if you try to push that on Facebook, the CPC can be very high. So we help our partners to make sure that it doesn't cost them too much money to reach their goal when they're trying to push this kind of branded content on Facebook, and to basically achieve like very similar CPC that what they would achieve with their editorial content. And performance is every single related more like to, as I say, paid subscription, newsletter sign up, where we can run this kind of campaign with more like a CPA, CPL goal. So yeah, I'm just going to show you very quickly some case studies of our work with some of our partners related to all these campaign models and use case that we discuss. So for example, in the UK, we're working with Viacom around like 2 brands, Comedy Central, MTV. Basically, they came to Kiwi. They were achieving a specific CPC before that, and they were curious to see if we can do better for them. It turns out that we managed to get a CPC like half of what they were getting before. So it's already having a huge impact on their campaign and on the traffic on site. But on top of that, they also saw an improvement in terms of engagement and video views on site, which was the goal for them. So basically, they have articles and they have video. They want people to arrive on the website and engage with the video. And they saw an increase of 10 times more engagement on the video. So it's definitely a win-win where basically they get a much cheaper CPC and also a very strong engagement on site. So yeah, we as I say, we work a lot on everything related to branded content. Some of our partners, for example, they run like videos, like native video directly on Facebook or Instagram. And the goal is really to get like video views and try to get like a very good cost per video. So it's what we did, for example, with National Geographic. There's this campaign with Subaru in the US, and yeah, we really helped them to make sure that we push their video to the right audiences that are going to help us to get like very good performances for them. So in their case, they achieved like a third of a cent in dollars for a view on Facebook. And we can also optimize for video length, so just to make sure that people actually engage with the video, and because as it's autoplay on Facebook, we can make sure that people are actually watching the video and watching maybe 10, 15, 30 seconds, whatever metrics you define engagement with. Cost per page views. So as I say, if you have like galleries, we can really help you to make sure that people arrive on your website. And then if we have our pixel, we can optimize for page views and making sure that people are consuming 5, 10, 20 page views per visit. That's really good, especially for arbitrage. And so we can have this kind of campaign running with a cost per page view goal and making sure that people are actually going to find the audiences basically that are actually going to consume page views on site. Video views. So if you have like video content that you're trying to push on Facebook and get the people coming back to your website to actually watch the video. Most of our partners, they have like a pre-roll monetization of their videos, so they know that they have like very high RPM on this kind of video. So we can find a model where basically we can help you to define a cost per video that you can afford. And again, with our pixel on site, we can make sure that the people are actually going to consume the video when they arrive on your website, and help you to build this kind of profitable acquisition model where every time you spend $1 with us, you're going to make $1.50 or $2 with the ads on site. And the paid subscription, so it's what we do, for example, with the New York Times or Le Monde in France. So you have more and more publishers who are actually trying to do that, to get more and more like digital subscription, and using your content to do that goal, to achieve that goal is a great strategy. So what we do with the New York Times, so some of our partners, they have a paywall, some of them they're more like a freemium model where they have like paid article and free articles. But so it's different optimization on our side, but basically our goal is really to use your amazing content to distribute it on Facebook and make sure that we're going to find the people who are actually going to engage with it and subscribe to your product. So in the case of the New York Times, we managed to get something like very, very low compared to what they were doing on their own. And that's why now most of their conversions on Facebook are coming from Kiwi. And so that's pretty much it. The thing that we can offer you to do if you're interested, so we're willing to get like 10 qualified publishers, and if you want like a strategy session with us, we can definitely schedule that. What we can do for you is basically, if we have access to your content, we can show you which articles have actually the best potential to succeed for the next 2 months on Facebook. So that's totally free, no engagement, whatever. So yeah, if you're curious to have our team to review and to use our technology to see what content you should be pushing for the next 2 months, just send me an email, martin@kiwi.co, and yeah, we will make sure to provide you a lot of insight on your actual content, and then hopefully that's going to help you to kill it in Q4. So that's it. So I don't know if you have any questions or can do like some Q&A.
Just let everyone know also there are sign-up sheets on all of your tables, so if you didn't grab Martin's email, you can just check them down there as well.
Yeah, I will make sure to come back to you, but yeah, otherwise you just send me directly an email and yeah. Do we have any question? Does it cover like what you were expecting in terms of?
Are there any really bad habits that you see kind of publishers and kind of mistakes that they're making when they go do social posts? Just common ones that you might not think are kind of detrimental to those posts, but are.
Well, usually, on my side, yeah, I think it's more like if you're trying to. What we saw like with some of our partners is that they feel like they see like successful stories on other publishers and they try to replicate that, but basically this article is totally out of what they're usually creating. So I don't know, let's say they are a very serious news publication and they're gonna start creating content about like Kim Kardashian just because like people are, and you're like, yeah, that's you're not supposed to create this kind of content. It's totally disconnected with your brand and what people actually expect from you. And so they start to create this kind of content just to basically, because they think that's the only way for them to succeed on Facebook, which is definitely not the case. So it's when they do that, usually it's not working well, either in terms of performances and also in terms of the brand image that they're putting on Facebook. So we definitely don't recommend to do that, and we believe that every story has the potentially to succeed on Facebook. But depending on your content, it might be harder to basically find the audiences that are gonna engage with this content. But yeah, so trying to follow like what some others are doing, if it's totally disconnected to your brand on your editorial guidelines, I definitely don't recommend it. And the same for the creatives that we said, like for example, the lists are working with a lot of publishers, but if the actual content, for example, is not a list, so if you're just using the headline with the list to get the clicks and the engagement and people arrive on your website, they actually do expect to be exposed to a list. And if it's not the case, that can be very deceptive, and so you might get like very high engagement and good CPCs, but yeah, people are going to leave the website like straight away. So you need to make sure that obviously the content is matching the message that you're putting on Facebook. So, but sometimes people don't do that. So I think that's a big mistake, and so they don't understand why people just spend like 5 seconds on website or the bounce rate is super high, and it's like, yeah, it totally makes sense actually. So that's 2 mistakes I can think about. The other one is, some people, they don't want to run, for example, on mobile, just because they think that it's not working for them, or just because they know the monetization is lower on their side, but they don't necessarily realize that actually the CPC are going to be like much lower as well. And so it's just like 2 different campaigns. So they're going to run one global campaign targeting desktop and mobile. Obviously, most of the volumes, when you do that, like most of the volumes are going to go to mobile. So you might get like 90% of the traffic from mobile. So yeah, I would recommend to split that, like different campaign, one targeting desktop, one targeting mobile, and it's just different CPC that you can afford on your site. So it's definitely recommended to do that. And also, we have actually a lot of partners who are trying to achieve many things, and I think it's really important to have like one clear focus on what is the main KPI that you're trying to achieve. Like, so some people are going to be like, yeah, okay, we just want the lowest possible CPC, which is totally fine. But then they want people to subscribe or to watch a video view, or once they arrive on the website, and you're like, yeah, you need to define one main metric and making sure that, yeah, that's the KPI that you're following. And actually, what we see with a lot of our partners, they have like different campaigns because they have like different campaign goals. And the content that, for example, is going to help them to get like very low CPC is not the same content that's going to help them to get like video views or subscription. Like, the content for the New York Times that is getting a lot of their subscription is actually like a very high CPC content. But when people actually read this content, that's why they want to subscribe to the New York Times and not for a story about like Kim Kardashian, for example. I don't think the New York Times is doing that, but yeah. So yeah, that's the few things I'm thinking about right now in terms of mistakes that we. I don't know if it's a mistake. I think for me it's a mistake, but yeah.
About the headlines. here you showed an example of headlines, and each word was capitalized. Is this something that you recommend to do?
Yeah, so actually, I think it's that's a good point. From what we saw, it seems to be working better. Again, I don't know if the impact is going to be massive, but it seems to be working a bit better. But it depends on the language. Like, for example, in French, we don't do that, but some people want to do it. But yeah, it makes it like very weird for French people to see that. I think in English content is definitely a good practice that you can use. But again, so it depends on the language of the content. But I know in France it's not working really well, and people are not really used to see this kind of capitalization on every word. So, but again, the best is to actually try. Maybe for some stories it's going to work better, for some others it's not going to work better. But yeah, it's a lot of testing. But yeah, it's a good practice that we see with quite a lot of publishers as well. Good question. Any other question? Everybody's hungry. Well, thanks for your time, and yeah, feel free to reach out. Yeah, I'm going to be there as well this afternoon, so yeah, if you want to discuss or whatever, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.